Hello, and welcome along to Adobe After Effects Techniques with your host Robert Smith. In this part 3 of creating an animated logo using the generators, I'm going to add a bit of finesse to this logo. So let's look what we've got so far. In the first two videos we created this, which is two effects behind an alpha channeled iPad drawing, like that. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to make this guy's swing left and right using something called the puppet pin tool. So I'm going to zoom in a bit, Apple Plus, like that, so I can see it a bit closer. Okay, now what I want to do is this tool here. Again, this is can be a really complicated tool, but I'm going to show you the basics of it. It's called the puppet pin tool. So make sure you're on the puppet pin tool like that, or Command P is the shortcut. And let me just demonstrate it. Now the first thing I want to do is make sure I'm back at the start like this. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm back at the start of my timeline. I'm simply going to select that tool and I'm going to click points like this. See, I get a little yellow point. I'm going to click another one here. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I need to what's called ground this image, because if I start to move it, and I'm going to put one here as well like that. So I've put about 5 points across there and one there. Now let's see how that looks in your timeline like that. If I press that, let's go up here. I'll just move this up a little bit so we can see it. That's a bit tricky there, like that. Now if I select this and press the letter U, you'll see all of the keyframes that are associated with this. Now each one of those points has its own properties here like this. And as you can see, when we clicked on there, it gave us a keyframe at the start for each of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move along a bit. I don't want it to actually start moving till about here. That's what I want. So I want it to come on not doing anything. So I'm going to click down here and select all of these and just add a don't do anything keyframe here. Remember, we spoke about this many times where between here and here, nothing's going to happen. Okay, then I'm going to move along a little bit to about here. And I'm going to select this puppet pin 6, which is this one here, this puppet tool here. You can select any of these points by going down here like that. And what I'm going to go back to the pointer tool, and I'm going to grab that and just drag it to the left. And as you can see, it just turns it into rubber. It turns a still image into rubber. So I'm going to move that to there. And then I'm going to move along a bit to about here. And I'm going to grab it again and just drag it to the, oops. They can get a bit tricky that. Make sure you select it down here like that. That's the point you want to add a keyframe to. I'll just drag it to the right a little bit like that. And then I want it to come back to where it started from. So I'm just going to copy that, Command C, this keyframe here by selecting it, moving along a little bit, and Apple V, and back where we started. So now we get this look. This silly fantastic rubber look you can do with the pin tool. You notice I haven't touched any of these pins down here, because if I do that, it'll get a bit funny. And what I want to do is now, I want to use something called Rove Across Time. I'm looking at that. If I play it like this, up it comes, great. Then he starts to do his little bit of a twirly thing like that. Very nice indeed. A bit too slow, so I'm going to select all of those keyframes like that. Hold the Option key down and click and drag to the left. Now you'll notice that they are keeping their own relationship between those keyframes. I don't know if you can hear those kookaburras in the background. They're natives of Australia. Okay, so if I just drag here like this. Okay, fantastic. That's what I want. Great. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy these two middle keyframes like that, Command C, and just paste them in there like that. So now it'll just keep doing that. And if I was to select all of those keyframes now, Command C, move along a little bit to there, and Apple V to paste them in. As you can see, there's a bit different there. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So now, great. Okay, that's about all I wanted to do. Like that. In fact, I don't even want it to do that. I want it to come back to about I can find a stop one. There's a stop one, this keyframe here. So I'll just get rid of all of these keyframes. I don't need that. I just want him to swing a couple of times and then stop. Okay, great. So I'm going to close up that layer. As you can see, it can get very, very messy. Once you start to get into puppet pin tools, you can have many, many properties to play around with. Okay, I'll just drag this down a little bit. Let's have a look at it, what we've done so far. Great, he does a little bit of a swing to side and then stops. That's exactly what we want. Fantastic. Okay, but what I want him to do, I want him to fade in at the start. I really want to see that animation, and then he can come in at about here. So I'm going to select that layer, press the letter T for opacity, put in a keyframe at that point there, and drop it back to 0 so we can't see him. And then about here, we'll put that up to 100%, and we'll get an automatic keyframe. So he comes in with his head bobbing from side to side. That's exactly what we want. Fantastic. Okay, now let's just add a little bit of text to it, and it's just about finished. To do that, I'm going to go zoom that down a little bit like this. Go to my text tool, and I'll just type in Digit Guy Education, which is the name of the company I have. Okay, and the DigiGuy Education on YouTube, if you want to have a look at more of my videos. I've got about 250 on there. Okay, now I'm going to be a bit of a graphic designer here. I'm not going to use a space between those two. I'm just going to change the first word from bold over here to book, like that. So it's light, which is quite a subtle look. And I'm just going to move it over here into the middle like that, to about there. I might even drop the size down a little bit over here, down to about, say, 26 point. About there. Fantastic. So I'll put that there. You'll notice how it's taken up the whole timeline. Okay, now all I need to do now is bring that in when I want it. So I don't want it to come in straight away. I want it to come in once his head starts to swing. About there I want it to start. So I'll select that layer, press the letter T for opacity, put a keyframe in there and drop it back to 0. Move along a little bit and just fade that in over time up to 100%. And there it is. There's our finished logo. The two effects, Mr. Mercury. We've got a mask in play. We use the puppet pin tool. And we've also added a little bit of typography to it, which is one of the great things about After Effects, in that you can mix everything together. Videos, stills, typography, audio, everything. Now, I don't have an audio track for this, but I could add one if I wanted. Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed generating inside After Effects.